I'll tell you another one too, Lieutenant. I don't know. Sometimes when they, eating, poultry to eat, sometimes the conditions that they grow, like when they hatch them, we're talking thousands of, hatched, little chicks that become, they are you've probably noticed how they're, the hormones they're injected to make them grow quicker and get more meat and stuff. I've always thought that's quite cruel. I know this is a bit different from the egg thing, but I've always thought, sometimes the conditions that these chicken farms and things is pretty bad.
Well, I'm glad you raised that, because it does. It's another example of the what you might call it is. It's the food chain, right?
Yeah.
The food chain is being manipulated and distorted, and we don't even know.
For sure.
We're thinking, all right, this is, it says on the box, free range. Well, that means it's out there, doesn't it? It's, it's on the grass, and it's eating all the little insects, and it's eating little bits of grass, and it's all happy and everything. Au contraire, they're saying that free range means that they can see a little hole in the shed, but that doesn't mean they get through that hole.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, straight like. We had one near us here, Lieutenant. I don't want to say their names. I'm not going to. But they had there was a chicken farm, like thousands. It was incubators, 5 to 10,000 chicks that were hatched, and they would sell they had contracts with supermarkets. I won't say the name, but they were found out. This farmer, he was closed down. He actually was shut. It was so cruel and bad what was happening there. They had to shut him down. It was not good. It was hellacious. The conditions that they're in that.
Yeah. Well, it's good that they got shut down, but how much has the big corporations benefited from that?
Well, yeah.
And when you right, let's have a think about this. You've got big farmers, FARMERS, right? They are, they're mass producing for the supermarkets and all the rest of it, right? So then it seems like, to make a buck, they've really got to go to the cheapest food sources, okay? And therefore, going off what that lady was saying in that video, they're going to the most messed about with food sources for the hens themselves, right? And the hens are probably living in the worst conditions. But those food sources, the worst kind of food sources, right? These modified feeds that have got all of these chemicals injected into them, as opposed to it actually being a natural organic food for the chickens, right? Remember that woman said, like, the more organic and real pure food and nutrition that you want it to be for the chickens, the more expensive it's going to be, right? So the cheaper it is, the worse it's going to be, the more artificial it's going to be. Well, where do those chemicals come from? They come from big pharma with a PHARMA, as in
Monsanto,
big pharmaceutical
Monsanto,
companies. Monsanto, terrible company, okay? Formerly known as Bayer, right? Terrible company. I mean, Bayer, they were making the Zyklon B capsules during the atrocities of World War II, which the Nazis used in the death camps to put into the so-called shower rooms. The Zyklon B, which was the gas that killed all those people. Yeah, that's Bayer.
That's it. Yeah.
That's Bayer, who you get all your aspirin from and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it, when you think of the chemical, that industry, and the big pharma, and was it the Dow Jones Chemical Company?
Look at what they were more than happy with happening back then. You think they've changed? I mean, come on. They had their victims making the Zyklon B capsules in factories under slave labor conditions at Auschwitz-Monowitz, which was the third camp because there was 3 altogether. Auschwitz I was the one where the prisoners of war, like the Russians and the Americans and the Brits, were kept, where had anything happened to them, then they really would have been holy hell. And then there was Auschwitz II, which is Birkenau, which was the big death camp that you always see the images of, right? Where
Birkenau's the one I knew.
Birkenau. So that's where they were living to die, but they would be going off to Monowitz, the third one, where they had big companies like Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Bayer, Siemens, right? All these big corporations that are massive today, because off the backs of those slaves that they worked to death, right? Well, they had those slaves in Monowitz making the Zyklon B capsules that would be used to kill them in the death camp Birkenau.
Yeah, it's pretty
in
sick.
The gas chambers.
Twisted, yeah.
So if they were doing that then, what were they doing before that?
Yeah.
Because you don't just all of a sudden wake up and go, I know what I'm going to do. Mass murder. No. What were they doing before that? And what have they done since that?
Yeah.
These companies, right? Bayer is now called Monsanto. All these big companies are still up there. Mercedes-Benz is still up there. Volkswagen is still up there. Hugo Boss, who made the knee-high boots and the uniforms for the Nazi SS, they're still up there. Porsche, who made the tanks for the Nazis, right? They're still up there.
There's Adidas. Was he one? Was he German?
Is there a sign of remorse from them? Regardless, right? My point is there a sign of remorse from them? Is there a sign of remorse from them looking at what they're doing to feed the animals that we rely on for nutrition?
Yep, true.
So, this is really, really scary. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what kind of agenda is this?
I remember with Monsanto, Lieutenant, I don't know if it was 20 years ago or 15 or so. Weren't they inject? I remember when I first heard about them, I think it was something like they were putting things in tomatoes. Were they putting chemicals in tomatoes on an industrial scale in America? It was something to do with they were putting all sorts of cancer-causing stuff in tomatoes and other veg and fruits and things. And I think the maize and the corn was another one I remember.
Which is bad enough because these plants contain toxins anyway, so why add more?
Yeah, I don't know. No.
This is very sinister. So these big pharmaceutical companies are adding toxins to our food to make sure we're ill enough to need to buy pharmaceuticals from them that they trick us into thinking will help us, but no, they have that many side effects. They make us more ill, so we need to eat more of that toxic food, so we need to take more of medications. It's just a downward spiral.
It is.
They're poisoning us.
They force you to, get ill, get sick, get diagnosed with something, however serious, and then you're completely relying on them. So then Big Pharma makes the quote unquote medicines, cures. The cost of it's a
what did they do? What have we seen them do on social media? If anyone questions it or wants to explore the situation, like what did we see from 2020? Right, silencing.
Yeah, well, sometimes
tyranny,
them,
which is tyranny, trying to silence people, right?
Yeah.
No one's allowed to ask any questions, right? Yeah. No one's allowed to think critically.
Yeah. You're not allowed to, and if you really go for it, they will kill you, or you'll disappear. It's very.
Well, we see that happen all the time. We hear about that. There's whistleblowers tell us what goes on in big tech, in big pharmaceutical companies. We hear of people finding cures for things, and then all of a sudden they disappeared.
Yeah. Lieutenant, I don't know if you remember the story. There was that kid. Do you remember Again, might have been 15 years ago. I think he had some sort of child cancer. I can't remember if it was a brain related or something. And he was in Great Ormond Street Hospital. and his parents found out that there was a place in Spain where he could get the treatment, and and the NHS wouldn't let him go, and they said no, we're going to try and get him to Spain because there's a chance he could live. There's a chance he could. And in the end, they had to sort of get him out kind of like illegally. They had to kind of smuggle him out the country to get to Spain because they didn't want to let him go. The NHS said no, there was no chance for him. But yeah, he did live and he got cured too. But if he'd stayed here, he would have died. So
yeah,
it's scary, But
well, here's another thing. Look at what happened with Dr. Jordan Peterson. He became very unwell a few years back from the impact of a certain medication that was supposed to help him, his mental health, right? He ended up so ill in Canada, the best treatment that they had for him was going to end him. So he had to, and he tried all across North America, not just Canada, right, for proper treatment. Nowhere was treating him well. They ended up having to find treatment for him in Russia.
Wow, what?
Wouldn't you have thought that North America, right, the USA and Canada would have the best?
The best, yeah. You'd think that.
You would think so, but no. Because the big pharmaceuticals, those companies are behind the medications that healthcare professionals are pretty much dictated to as far as what they prescribe is concerned. So if anyone tries to find a way out of that, well, what are they going to do? I mean, look at how they tried to silence him. They basically tried to destroy him.
Yeah.
So he had to get help from a country that you would think would be pretty tyrannical and would be worse.
Yeah.
For that sort of thing. But it's got nothing to do with the government. It's these private corporations, these private businesses.
Yeah. It's true, Lieutenant. Yeah. It's scary. Like, like round here, I don't know, like here, like, because I know you're in London or a big city, right? Around here we're rural, so I mean, if you're ill here or you're unwell, like you can't even see an NHS, you can't even see a doctor. So they got something called Symphony Healthcare.
Okay, is that a private healthcare company?
Yeah.
Okay,
and it's not connected to the way it used to be. You can't even see anyone. It's a joke.
So do you only get seen online or over the phone?
Yeah, that
you
kind
actually
of thing.
Have a GP surgery to go to.
So we used to have here, a bit near us. Okay, Martock, little town, maybe 3 or 4 miles, and then South Pemberton, 3.5 miles, right? So there'd be 2 GPs or doctor surgeries there, and you could go to, I'm talking say pre sort of, I mean I'd say even before COVID. It seemed to all go wrong when COVID came in. So you could probably see a doctor in the morning if you phoned up. You'd see one at some point in the day, right? But now, I mean, since I'd say 22, 23, it's a joke. You can't see anyone. It's just, So what happens is people go to the other town further away called Langport, where there is a surgery, or they go to the Chard, which is a minor A&E hospital. So that you forced people in this area to have to drive or go, and there's a lot, elderly people, or say, you're forcing them to go 10 miles.
Yeah.
And if not that, they'll just send you to either Taunton Hospital or Yeovil, right? Or that, Yeovil. So I mean, it's just crazy, yeah. And
that's terrible for healthcare. Terrible.
Yeah.
In a first world country, that is absolutely atrocious when you think about it.
It's shocking, Lieutenant. Honestly, it's just. Yeah, I mean, in London, I guess the nice thing is you've got, a whole army, right? Doctors or the hospital. You can, if you are unwell, you can see someone usually pretty quick, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, relatively speaking. I mean, when you look at how overly populated London is, though, it's
Yeah.
not that easy. And you've got a lot in healthcare, not all, but there's a lot in healthcare who seem to be all on board with what I call inhumane healthcare. They'd rather do things over the phone or in a
Right.
Zoom
Yeah.
call, right? And they'd rather brush you off with something that Big Pharma wants them to sell, prescribe you, as opposed to actually think things through and diagnose you accurately and offer you all of the potential solutions for you to make an educated decision about your own body and thus your own life, right? There's not much of that goes on.
So it would be like similar then here. Yeah, you get the same usual painkiller, paracetamol nonsense, or antidepressant. Those are the two main. If you do see a doctor, right? Here,
Yeah,
in
the
that's
sad
what the
thing, yeah, the sad thing is they rely on people not being conscientious about their own health for whatever reason. Some people, I think, they're so overworked,
yeah.
malnourished, nihilistic. They can be, a lot of people, I think, are in a state of helplessness. And it's learned helplessness. You remember the Big Nose of London would talk about learned
That's right.
helplessness?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And there's a whole host of reasons how that comes about. Like I say it all the time, adults that are, that are older than me, it's terrible in London compared to other parts of the country where they're quite infantile
Yeah.
and they expect, someone else will sort it out for them, no matter what the problem is, no matter what the matter is, whether it's their healthcare or, wiping their own hands after they've just ate or using a napkin. Do you know what I mean? It's like they just wipe their hands on the table, sort of thing. It's really terrible.
If like, just out of curiosity, Lieutenant, like if you went, I'm trying to think what the big hospitals are in London. Is Guy's? Is that one? Guy's Hospital? That's a
Yeah,
London.
guys, St Thomas, that's
So
just over Westminster Bridge, so
yeah,
it's closer to Waterloo than the Houses of Parliament. Yeah, but it's along
and is
there.
there one called? Is there? It's not Prince. It's not Prince. No, there's a. What's it called?
And there's a few royal hospitals, and yeah.
Like if you like, I'm trying to think. If you went in there, um, say you'd had an accident like falling, and you think you might have like fractured your arm, right? Or like if you went in there, would they pretty quickly see you and maybe get an X-ray done or some sort of scan? Like, would that be pretty standard if if your arm was in that much pain, say, and you walked into the A&E and
Oh
guys
yeah,
or
they've got A&E. You can get things done quickly. You can get things done quickly. You've got to fight for it. You've got to hope you've got the right staff on the right day.
because here it would be a performance talent like here, right? What I've just described would be.
I dare say that it is far more accessible here in London compared to what you're describing in the West Country. Absolutely, yeah.
Because I'm trying to think here, if I
Healthcare.
did that, like if it was that bad, I'd probably I'd just avoid the little GPs here, and the little doctors. I'd avoid them, and I would
Yeah.
go straight to. I'm trying to think, probably the minor A&E unit, which is in Chud. So that would be from here like 8 to 10 miles, right? So I have to get there. So by car, what's that? 20 minutes, 24, yeah, around 20. So when you go in there, and then it's just through word of mouth around here. People say, like the neighbours, that it's good. They've had a better treatment there than all. But yeah, but if you were to go to the GP or something, it'd be a nightmare. Or if you were to go to Taunton, it would take you from here 30 to 40 minutes to drive there. But it's the A&E. There's a lot of people waiting a long time usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine like what but it sounds like to me in London, if that happened, yeah, you go in there and then you would probably be seen quite quick, which would be better than oh dear. No.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the day that it falls on as well, and it
That's
depends on
true,
the
yeah.
area, right? There's a lot of areas where knife crime is rife. Okay, people are injuring each other and themselves for whatever reason, quite often, more often than used to be the case, especially with people from less civilized cultures living in
Gang
London.
warfare, yeah. Is it
Yeah,
gang
you've
stuff?
got, it's more than 63% immigrant in London now.
Cool. Well, I don't know what
Yeah.
to say.
So
Okay.
the cultures in London are like subhuman, if you ask me. Like, they're very inhumane, the cultures that are in London, and therefore you do get these problems more than what they used to be. I mean, there's someone raped way more often than used to be the case. So you've got people like that going to A&E. It's not just like people who are trying to wave machetes around at each other, expecting
Wow,
it to be
gosh.
okay and stuff. Yeah, it's horrendous in London.
Yeah, I must say,
Compared to what
around
it
here
used
we
to
don't
be.
see a lot of machetes.
Yeah,
Don't see
exactly.
so-
You do have fresher air. You do have healthier food and all the rest of it.
We got the orchards, Lieutenant. The apple trees. That's what we have.
Yeah.
Lots of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I need to order some apple cider vinegar from the West Country, actually. You've reminded me because I'm nearly out.
Oh, I give you the
I had a
hookup.
5-litre bottle at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that I bought some of that actually 3 weeks ago. That's very good for you.
Yeah, very
it is.
good for your gut.
It's amazing too because I think in the cider process, like that's the last thing they make out of the apple. I think the cider vinegar is the last thing. But yeah, it does. It gets rid of acid reflux, helps in digestion, heartburn, improves all digestion and stuff.
Yeah, apple cider vinegar with the mother in it is actually alkaline compared to any other vinegar, which is acid.
Yeah, it's always got me thinking, Lieutenant. Like, yeah, you put in a teaspoon, you try it, then you think, well, how can this be like making my stomach more alkaline, right? Well, how can this be changing the pH? Because you think it's so bitter, right? It's so like sharp tasting, but yeah, no, it does. It does wonders.
Yeah, and the mother is that bacteria that's a good bacteria and actually works with your body and your brain, as opposed to just suits itself and feeds on whatever and just causes you to eat the wrong things and all of that. It does the opposite. It really makes you a lot healthier. So it's a beneficial bacteria to have in the body.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's funny. You sometimes see the barrels that they make, big quantities of cider in.
Yeah,
like it's pretty raw. Let's say round here. You wonder what's really in the barrels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of these are 19th century huge wooden barrel things, right? Like you guys, it is another world. When you think of like modern breweries, the lagers you see in the shops. Some of these old cider people, it's like going back in time.
Yeah. The old ways of doing things are the best, though. Like, I get a butter from a farm. I can't remember where they are. It's called Quakes.
Right.
Quakes, and it's whey butter, and it's made the old-fashioned way with these wooden barrels and wooden tools and all the rest of it. None of this big factory stuff. And it's expensive, but it's so much more nutritious. And they only use the cows that haven't had all this dodgy food put into them to cause them to fatten up and all the rest of it, which poisons our food supply. None of that. Like, they're really healthy cows, who just graze all day. But those old-fashioned ways of making things cuts out the need for all of these chemicals and additives and whatnot being put into feeds and put into the produce that you get from the animal before you sell it on to the customer, so to speak. Yeah, those old-fashioned ways cuts out the need for any of that. So I think
I want
Going
to
off what I heard that chicken farmer say in that video, and like what we're discussing, I think we need some kind of revolution in the food industry.
I think around here you can see it, Lieutenant. Like people are trying, like here to what am I saying? Like they're growing more. You're seeing a lot more little people with like vegetable patches and stuff here.
Yeah.
They're trying like more trees. They're like growing more fruit. Like people growing stuff here, Somerset at least. I don't know. You see it. Little people are kind of going back in time a bit. Something like I think they do want healthier foods and things, and they're like homegrown and organic growing stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe the word's getting out. You know, some of how toxic some of this food is.
Well, yeah, I think people are waking up. They're starting, you know, especially with all of the protests from the farmers, like coming with their tractors all the way through to Parliament Square. That's impressive, man. Yeah. That is impressive. They came past, I couldn't believe it when I woke up and I thought, what's all that noise? And I looked out the window and there's all these tractors going past in the street.
I knew if you were, Lieutenant. 3 came from around here. Honestly, there was 3 from
but it's amazing, like it's amazing. I think all of Westminster, you could hear tractors. There was this rumble that we hadn't been heard.
Do you remember the petrol crisis, Lieutenant? They blocked the refineries.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you remember that in '99? Do you remember they blocked the refineries, the farmers? Can you remember the petrol crisis thing?
Oh, vaguely recall that. Yeah.
They were blocking all the refineries as well.
Good on them. The more they do things like that, though, like they've been doing it across Europe as well, and the more they do that, I think it was the Canadians that started it. And Trudeau came down heavy on them in Canada, or was that the truckers? Anyway, the more that they do this and the more often they do this, and the more that people are getting sick of the prices going high and the rich people getting rich while our standard of living is dropping through the floor. And yet we've got all of these foreign criminals entering the country and being given anything and everything they demand. I think the more that people are getting sick of that, and the more the farmers do what they do with their protests and everything, the more people are waking up, and the more people are starting to change how they shop. They're starting to change how they garden. They're starting to, you know, not just shopping for food. They're starting to look at who's making what, and they're starting to look into what's actually going into their food source. So even though you don't want it to be happening, what's happening, at least the fact that it is happening is making people more conscientious.
It's a good point. Like when the farmers start getting involved, they can actually make things happen. It is amazing. They, you know, when they get upset, they do force the government and people to think, you know. They do have that kind of power, it seems.
Well, yeah, I mean if you've got no food coming in.
Yeah.
Right? And the farmers are where our food comes from. They are our lifeline. The doctors think there's something, but no. It's the farmers who need to grow that stuff, who need to manage the livestock and all the rest of it, for even the pharmaceutical companies to have somewhere to go for substances, right? So
no, it is interesting. I never really thought about it like that before, but it does seem, you know, when they want something, or when something isn't right with them, they do cause a reaction. They do make energy, you know. They cause something to happen, right? I was going to say, Lieutenant, I got something here it might be worth sharing. It's just interesting how I looked it up. If you turn the clock back 20 years ago, an average on the RPI, the retail price index? So the average price of a dozen eggs in millennium year to 2002.
2000.
£1 to £1.05p for a box of a dozen eggs, and now they're saying here it's £3, over £3. I mean, that's unbelievable. I can't believe that's quite a lot more money.
And you're still not getting healthy eggs. You're not
No.
getting, you're getting eggs that have been tampered with these dodgy feeds, like what
Yeah.
that lady was saying in the video.
Yeah.
Shocking.
No, it is. It is really quite unbelievable. Like, yeah, when you think about all these things. Lieutenant, on like sort of a health, it's kind of connected-ish. It's to do with health and well-being. There was an
Yeah.
article I saw on the BBC yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. They're trying to anyone born, I think, in 2008. So they're going to ban all tobacco, all I think vaping and tobacco. If you're born in '08, so I'm trying to think that would mean you're so. I'm pretty sure it's '08. Yeah, you can't
So that would
smoke
mean,
anymore or something.
all right. So that would mean anyone who's 18 or
Yeah,
younger today.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they apparently it was something they're gonna. I don't. Do you think that's a good idea or not? Or
Um, I think what they need to do is shut down the big tobacco companies
yeah,
and not prohibit the regular Joe blogs from growing their own tobacco, drying out, processing and smoking their own tobacco. I think these big corporations, because they're tied in with big chemical companies like BASF, who are another dodgy chemical company that goes back to the late 1800s in Germany, who were used during World War II by the Nazis, and who were even like contaminating beautiful lakes and stuff in Germany before all of that. Like these big chemical companies they've got, not just chemicals, it's the pharmaceutical companies, all of this. They've just got too much power and they're committing big crimes. I would say crimes against humanity. So I would say they should be shut down. They
yeah,
need to leave us alone. Those big corporations should be shut down. We should be making our decisions about our lives for ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so we've got a few more minutes before I'm going to play a tune and then stream. Anything else that you'd like to say about eggs tonight? I know that we're going to go away and we're going to start looking into it a bit more, finding out the absolute about the nutrition in the feeds eventually, the
Yeah.
absolute about nutrition in eggs themselves and thus in chickens themselves eventually. But like for tonight, do you have anything further to add?
I'm
Like a
just going
couple
to
more
read what
minutes.
Big Ben Wellard said. He said in the thing, the omega properties in chicken have been reduced to almost non-existence by intensive farming. I'm sorry, that's not about eggs. Just reading what he put. Yeah, that one. That's it.
That's the one. Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out more precisely how much they've been reduced by. And if it is actually evidenced in official papers, what these big companies and big MPs and all those kind of people who seem to think they get to control us against our
Yeah,
will and get away with it. It'd be interesting to see if there's anything that we could actually take to those kind of people, because I'm starting to think about going to my local MPs and just saying, what on
yeah,
earth
yeah,
are you doing when you go to Parliament? Because you aren't talking about all of this stuff, which is our foundations. Our food is our foundations, ravioli.
well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, yeah, it's the core, one of the core blocks of life, right? Yeah.
Yeah. A Big Ben Wellard rightly says chicken used to be a superfood, but it's not now. It's not that nutritious because of what they're being fed, because of how they're being treated, because of how they're being kept, I think. Agent X in the chat. Welcome, Agent X. Yes, I said that at the beginning of this. Was it when I started talking to you, Ravioli? Yes, we are what we eat. This is a saying that goes around, and it is. I do think there's truth in that, because what we eat ends up in our flesh, ends up in our cells. Whether
Yeah.
it's nutrition, whether it's toxins, doesn't matter what it is. The stuff that we put on our skin ends up in our cells because it goes into the pores and through the digestive system, just like anything we put in our system, right? It's still got to go to the liver and be processed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. True.
yeah, everything we breathe in goes through that. So everything we're surrounded by affects us, whether we're eating it through our skin or directly through the mouth. Yes, we are what we eat. Very
I got a
good saying.
statistic here, Lieutenant. So only in
Okay.
Britain, somewhere they say over 13 billion eggs are eaten every year in the UK.
Gosh,
I know.
I bet that figure's gone up since I've got back into eggs.
But it says here, apparently, though, on Earth, the Japanese eat 320 eggs per person annually. Apparently, that's a lot.
Yeah, the Japanese are very healthy. They take their protein intake seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Smooth moderator. Smooth moderator. Smooth moderator.